Welcome to the lands of science fiction stories. I wish you a pleasant listening experience.
The lights of the Galactic medical hub flickered as Dr. Zeleth adjusted his tendril-like fingers, ensuring his bioscanner was functioning at peak efficiency. His station, the largest medical facility in the quadrant, was used to seeing all manner of patients, injuries from cosmic radiation, organ failures and methane breathers, and even the occasional bionic malfunction. But nothing could have prepared him for what was about to stagger through the automated doors. A loud crash echoed through the hall as the doors parted, revealing a silhouette bathed in smoke. Zeleth's two primary eyes narrowed, his three secondary optical appendages extending to focus better. The figure stumbled forward, each step leaving a dark crimson trail across the pristine floor. A human. The human male's skin was a patchwork of bruises, cuts, and burns. His clothes, once a standard-issue combat suit, now hung in tatters. Strips of synthetic material clung to his muscled frame, and his face was twisted in an unreadable expression. Zeleth's bioscanner beeped erratically, overwhelmed by the readings. His tendrils twitched in shock. "Impossible," Zeleth muttered as he scanned the human's vitals again. Multiple fractures, internal hemorrhaging, plasma burns over 60% of his body. This being should be dead. The human smirked, a small, almost playful grin that seemed out of place given his condition. "Hey doc," he wheezed, his voice hoarse. "Got any of that alien miracle juice? Something to take the edge off." Zeleth's assistant, a slender and nervous Quarn named Velik, scurried to his side. "Dr. Zeleth, we must act quickly. His life signs are deteriorating fast. I've never seen injuries like this." The alien's voice trembled, his green skin rippling with anxiety. "Prepare the rejuvenation pod," Zeleth ordered, activating the emergency protocols. "This is no ordinary patient." The human's legs buckled, and he collapsed into Velik's arms. Whoa. Easy there, buddy," the human said, his breath ragged. "Just need a second." Velik grimaced, feeling the weight of the human's body, which was surprisingly dense for a creature with such a fragile appearance. "Sir, you need immediate medical attention," he said, struggling to hold him up. "Name's Jax," the human grunted, his voice tinged with pain. "Jax Turner. And yeah, I kinda figured." As they hauled him towards the rejuvenation pod, Zeleth's eyes kept darting back to his bioscanner. The readings were unlike anything he had encountered. The human's heartbeat, though irregular, was unnaturally strong, and his body was already attempting to regenerate despite the critical injuries. Zeleth leaned closer, his sensory glands picking up the metallic scent of human blood mixed with something else. "What happened to you?" Jax's eyes flickered open, the corners of his mouth twitching. "Oh, nothing much. Just got a little too close to a Zortharian warhead. Those things pack a hell of a punch." Zeleth nearly dropped his scanner. "You were exposed to a warhead detonation? That's impossible. No species could survive that." Jax chuckled, though it quickly devolved into a cough, spraying blood onto the floor. "Well, guess you guys aren't used to us Deathworlders. We're tough." Before Zeleth could respond, the pod's alarms began blaring. "Warning. Critical internal damage detected. Immediate intervention required." Velik's tendrils flew over the controls, calibrating the pod's healing matrix. The machine hissed as it enveloped Jax in a stasis field, preventing his body from further collapse. "Stabilize him," Zeleth instructed, his voice sharp. "I want full nanite saturation and plasma infusion. We have no time to lose." Jax winced as the machinery hummed to life, his muscles twitching under the invasive process. "Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Always loved the tingles." Velik shot Zeleth a look, his skin's bioluminescence dimming with worry. "Is he laughing?" Zeleth focused on the readings. "Humans, they react differently to pain. Some find it amusing." He eyed Jax with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. This one seems to have a particular disregard for his own mortality. The human's eyes fluttered as the stasis field worked its way over his body. "Can't let a little explosion keep me down. Got places to be, after all." Zeleth's tendrils twitched, his irritation mounting. "You should be focusing on recovery, not making light of this situation." Jax's grin widened, a spark of mischief flashing in his eyes. "Hey doc, what can I say? We Deathworlders like a bit of excitement." The rejuvenation pod's energy levels surged, bathing Jax's body in a healing glow. His skin, which had been scorched and torn, began to mend, the plasma burns fading. Zelitha's eyes widened as the human's muscles regenerated at an unprecedented rate. "It's working," Velik whispered, astonished. "He's healing." Jax gave them a thumbs up, his grin never faltering. "Told ya. Humans, we're hard to kill." But even as his injuries faded, Zelitha's scanner detected something else, a foreign object embedded deep within Jax's abdomen. His tendrils stiffened. "There's an anomaly, something metallic lodged in his side." Jax's eyes flicked to Zelitha's, a dangerous glint hidden beneath the pain. "Oh, that? Yeah, you might want to be careful with that one. Let's just say it's a souvenir from our Zortharian friends." Zelith exchanged a glance with Velik, who nodded and activated the scanner's magnification. The object was small but volatile, an active piece of Zortharian tech. "If it detonated, get me the containment field, now." Zelith barked. As the machinery whirred to life, Jax's smirk never wavered. "Guess you've got your work cut out for you, document. You fix me up, and I promise, I'll make it worth your while." Zelitha's eyes narrowed as he initiated the procedure. "We'll see, human. We'll see." The hum of medical equipment filled the air as Dr. Zelith and his team worked frantically around Jax's rejuvenation pod. The atmosphere in the med bay was tense, the kind of tension reserved for cases involving life or death stakes, and this was both. The containment field struggled to stabilize, its translucent energy fluctuating with each passing second as it surrounded the foreign object embedded in Jax's abdomen. Zelitha's hands moved with practiced precision, his fingers nimbly adjusting the bioscanner's frequency. "Velik, I need you to maintain the stasis integrity. If this device destabilizes, it could wipe out half the station." Velik nodded, his skin flickering a nervous shade of green. "Understood, Doctor." His tentacles darted over the console, reinforcing the containment barrier. "But I don't understand, why would a human carry such a device? It's like he's carrying a bomb." Jax, still half submerged in the glowing energy of the rejuvenation pod, glanced at them through half-lidded eyes. His grin was gone, replaced by a serious expression that didn't quite match the casual attitude he'd shown earlier. "Not my first choice, Doc," he said, his voice lower now. "But when you're running from Zortharians, you gotta improvise." Zelitha's eyes narrowed, and he leaned closer. "Explain. What exactly happened, and why are you carrying Zortharian tech inside you?" Jax sighed, wincing as the pod's nanites continued to mend his skin. "I was sent on a recon mission. Infiltrate, gather intel, and get out. Simple, right? Except the Zortharians caught on." He paused, his eyes meeting Zelitha's. They didn't take kindly to a human snooping around. Velik's tentacles twitched nervously. "You mean, they tried to kill you?" Jax's lips curled into a smirk again, though this one lacked humor. "Yeah, you could say that. They set off a warhead, figured they'd fry me and make it look like an accident. But they underestimated how stubborn we Deathworlders can be." His eyes gleamed. "I grabbed the nearest piece of tech and used it as a shield. Turns out it was one of their own experimental containment devices." Zelitha's mind raced, processing the information. "And now it's lodged inside you. If we don't extract it carefully, it could turn this place into space dust," Jax finished for him, his voice grim. "Yeah, I'm aware. That's why I came here. Figured you guys might have the fancy tools to get it out." Zelitha's expression was unreadable, but inside, his systems were on high alert. The Zortharians were one of the galaxy's most advanced and ruthless empires. If they deployed experimental tech like this, it wasn't just an ordinary piece of equipment, it was a weapon. "Velik," Zelith said, his tone urgent, "we're dealing with an unknown device. I need you to prepare the molecular disruptor. We have to dissolve the outer casing without triggering the core." Jax's eyes twinkled with amusement despite the gravity of the situation. "Disruptor, who? Sounds like some high-tech sci-fi stuff." Velik shot him a look, his bioluminescence dimming in frustration. "For us, it's just another tool. And right now, it's the only thing standing between you and vaporization." Jax chuckled, but his breath caught as the pod adjusted its settings, sending a wave of tingling energy through his body. "You aliens and your fancy tech. Back home, we just use some duct tape and a prayer." Zelith ignored the human's bravado. "This isn't a joke, Jax. We're dealing with a device that has the potential to annihilate everything within a 50-kilometer radius. He adjusted the disruptor's frequency, his focus absolute. And it's inside you. Jax's eyes softened, and for a moment, he looked every bit as vulnerable as the critical readings on the scanner suggested. Trust me, Doc, I'm not taking this lightly. But I didn't come all this way just to blow up your fancy hospital. He winced as the containment field shimmered around him. So what's the plan? Zelitha's tendrils moved in a blur as he prepared the device. I'll need to neutralize the outer shell first. If it reacts, if even a small amount of the compound leaks, we're all dead. He paused, locking eyes with Jax. Are you ready for this? Jax's grin returned, but this time it was a faint, tired one. I didn't sign up for a quick death document. Do what you gotta do. Velik activated the containment field, sealing the pod in a translucent barrier. Disruptor is ready. Starting phase 1 now. The room filled with a low hum as the molecular disruptor activated, its energy field locking onto the small device lodged in Jax's side. Zelith monitored the readings carefully, his senses attuned to every fluctuation. The disruptor's beam pinpointed the object, dissolving the outer layer at a microscopic level. The process was delicate. One wrong move and a sharp beep echoed through the med bay. Zelitha's eyes widened as the scanner blared a warning. Pressure levels are spiking. Velik, reinforce the field. Velik's tentacles flew over the controls. It's not holding, the device is reacting to the disruptor. Jax's body convulsed, his muscles twitching as the energy surged through him. He gritted his teeth, his face contorting in pain. Hang in there, document. I can take it. Stay still. Zelith barked, his voice uncharacteristically harsh. If you move, it could. A blast of light erupted from the pod as the disruptor made contact with the core. The energy rippled through the field, and Jax's body seized. Zelitha's tendrils darted to adjust the settings, fighting to contain the surge. The tension in the room was palpable. One mistake, and everything would be over. Stabilize, stabilize, Zelith muttered, his eyes locked onto the containment readings. The disruptor's energy beam intensified, dissolving the final layer of the device. For a moment, the air felt charged, like the calm before a storm. And then, silence. The disruptor powered down, and the glowing core of the Zortharian device floated, suspended in the containment field. Zelith exhaled, his body sagging with relief. We did it. The device is neutralized. Velik's bioluminescence brightened, signaling his relief. Dr. Zelith, it worked. The core is stable. Jax's eyes fluttered open, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Nice work, document. I knew you had it in you. Zelitha's expression softened, the tension in his eyes easing. We're not done yet, Jax. We still need to extract the core and dispose of it properly. Jax chuckled weakly. Yeah, just another day at the office, huh? Zelith allowed himself a brief smile. For you, perhaps. But for us, it's nothing short of a miracle. As the medical team moved to complete the extraction, Zelith couldn't shake the feeling that this human, this so-called Deathworlder, was far more than he appeared. And as he watched Jax's tired but triumphant gaze, he knew one thing for certain: life in the galaxy had just become far more unpredictable. The med bay's lights dimmed, casting long shadows over the equipment as the extraction procedure reached its most critical phase. Zelitha's tendrils moved with surgical precision, guiding the containment field that cradled the Zortharian device, a pulsing orb that held enough destructive potential to wipe out the station and everything around it. Velik, begin the transfer to the secure isolation chamber, Zelith ordered, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. The device hummed ominously, its core flickering with unstable energy. If they didn't handle it perfectly, the consequences would be catastrophic. Velik's hands trembled as he manipulated the controls, initiating the transfer protocol. Initiating containment transfer in 3, 2, 1. The field shifted, and the device floated slowly towards the isolation chamber across the room. Jax, still lying in the rejuvenation pod, watched the operation with a mix of concern and weariness. I really hope your tech is as good as you say it is, Doc, he muttered. If that thing goes off, we're toast. Zelitha's gaze remained fixed on the device, his eyes scanning for any sign of instability. You brought this danger upon yourself, Jax. It's a miracle you survived long enough to get here. Jax grinned, though it was clear the pain was still gnawing at him. Well, Deathworlders like me, sometimes we gotta take a few risks to get things done. Velik shot Jax a nervous glance as he continued adjusting the controls. This risk could have been your last, human. You're fortunate we had the equipment to deal with this. As the orb drifted closer to the isolation chamber, an alarm blared, and red lights flashed around them. The device's energy level spiked, and the containment field flickered. Energy readings are off the charts. Velik shouted. It's destabilizing. Zelitha's tendrils tightened, his voice rising in urgency. Reinforce the field. Now. Velik's hands flew over the controls, but the device vibrated violently, its core emitting a high-pitched whine. The containment field began to crackle, sparks flying as it struggled to contain the energy. It's not holding. Jax, watching from the pod, pushed himself up despite his weakened state. Doc, if that thing's gonna blow, you need to get out of here. Zelith shook his head, his eyes narrowed in determination. If I leave now, this entire station will be destroyed. We're not abandoning you. Jax's eyes flickered with a mixture of gratitude and concern. I'm serious. I've seen what these things can do. If it detonates, you'll have no chance. Zelitha's fingers moved faster, manipulating the disruptor to stabilize the energy. And neither will you. He glanced at Velik. Prepare the emergency shutdown. We're going to try and suppress the core directly. Velik's skin turned a deep shade of blue, a Quarnian sign of extreme stress. Doctor, if the suppressor fails. Just do it. Zelith barked. Velik hesitated only for a moment before engaging the emergency shutdown protocol. The containment field brightened, but the energy levels kept spiking. The orb shook violently, and a low rumble vibrated through the med bay. It's reaching critical mass. Velik shouted. Jax's eyes locked onto Zelitha's. Doc, listen to me. I might have an idea. He winced as he tried to move. You said you had some fancy nanotech and disruptors, right? Zelith nodded, his tendrils not pausing. Yes, but... Use them on me, Jax said, his tone resolute. Inject the disruptor tech into my bloodstream. I'll absorb the energy. Zelith stared at him, disbelief evident in his eyes. That's insane. It could kill you instantly. Jax smirked, his gaze unwavering. Or it could save all our lives. We Deathworlders are tough. We absorb energy differently. You've seen that yourself. Velik's eyes widened in horror. That's madness. It's suicide. Jax looked at Zelith. Doc, you said it yourself. We're out of options. Let's do it. Zelith hesitated for only a heartbeat before nodding. Velik, prepare the nanite disruptor serum. We're going through with it. As Velik prepared the serum, Zelith worked quickly to calibrate the injection system. Jax lay back, breathing heavily, but his eyes were calm and focused. Just another day, huh? He muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Hold still, Zelith instructed, inserting the injector into Jax's arm. This will hurt. Jax gritted his teeth as the needle pierced his skin, delivering the disruptor serum directly into his bloodstream. His body convulsed as the nanites surged through his veins, merging with the energy field emanating from the device. The containment orb pulsed, its light syncing with Jax's heartbeat. He clenched his fists, his muscles straining as his body absorbed the volatile energy. The room filled with a blinding light, and the alarms wailed louder than ever. Velik, increase the containment field around Jax. Zelith shouted. We have to isolate the energy transfer. Velik activated the field, surrounding Jax with an additional barrier of plasma shielding. Jax's body arched, his veins glowing with the same energy as the device. For a moment, it looked like he might not withstand the pressure. But then, the energy stabilized. The orb's vibration slowed, and its core dimmed as the power siphoned into Jax's body. His skin, which had been bruised and torn, healed rapidly under the effects of the rejuvenation pod and the nanites. Slowly, the alarms quieted, and the lights returned to normal. Velik's skin lightened as he checked the readings. Containment stable, the energy transfer worked. Zelitha's eyes widened as he monitored Jax's vitals. He did it. The nanites absorbed the excess energy. We're safe. Jax opened his eyes, his body still trembling but alive. Told you, we're hard to kill. He tried to sit up, but Zeleth gently pushed him back into the pod. Stay still, Zeleth said, his voice surprisingly soft. You're not out of the woods yet. Your body has absorbed a massive amount of energy. It'll take time to recover. Jax smirked, but this time, his eyes were full of genuine relief. Thanks, Document. You saved my life. Zeleth shook his head. You saved us all. It's not every day a Deathworlder walks into my med bay and manages to survive something like this. Velik let out a sigh of relief, his skin glowing a peaceful green. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Human resilience, it's extraordinary. Jax closed his eyes, his breathing finally steady. You know, you might just get used to having us around, Document. We've got a way of making things interesting. Zeleth watched as the human's body relaxed, the tension in his own tendrils finally easing. I think we've had enough excitement for one day. He paused, studying Jax. But you've taught us a lot, Jax. About your species, and about bravery. Jax's eyes fluttered open, and he grinned, despite the exhaustion. Well, Doc, if you ever need another crazy human to liven things up, you know where to find me. Zeleth smiled faintly. I'll keep that in mind. As the med bay quieted, Zeleth and Velik watched over Jax, ensuring his vitals stabilized. The containment chamber secured the now dormant Zortharian device, and for the first time in hours, the station returned to its calm, quiet routine. And though they all knew the risks they had faced, one thing was clear: Jax Turner, the Deathworlder who had walked off a blast that should have ended him, had changed their perception of humans forever. Life in the galaxy, Zeleth realized, was never going to be quite the same.